அஸ்ஸலாமு அலைக்கும் வரஹ்மத்துல்லாஹி வபரகாத்துஹு. பிஸ்மி வானொலியில் இணைந்திருக்கும் உங்கள் அனைவரையும் நம் சிறப்பு விருந்தினர் என்னும் நிகழ்ச்சியின் வாயிலாக சந்திப்பதில் பெருமிதம் கொள்கிறேன். என் பெயர் ரதியா, இன்றைய நிகழ்ச்சியின் நெறியாளர். இந்நிகழ்ச்சி ஒவ்வொரு சனிக்கிழமை ஒலிபரப்பப்படுகிறது. இதன் மறு ஒலிபரப்பு ஞாயிற்றுக்கிழமையில் காலை 10 மணிக்கு இடம்பெறும். மேலும் பிஸ்மி யூடியூப் தளத்தின் வாயிலாகவும் இந்நிகழ்ச்சியை கேட்டு பயன்பெறலாம். தங்கள் சுய முனைப்பால் வெவ்வேறு துறைகளில் தடம் பதித்தவர்களின் வாழ்க்கை பயணத்தை குறித்து அறிந்து கொள்வதோடு நம் சமுதாயத்தில் முன்னேறுவதற்கும் மேம்படுவதற்கும் வசதி வாய்ப்புகள் நிறைய இருக்கின்றன என்னும் ஊக்கத்தை அளிப்பதே நம் சிறப்பு விருந்தினர் நிகழ்ச்சியின் நோக்கமாகும். இதுவரை நம் சிறப்பு விருந்தினர் நிகழ்ச்சியில் சுய முனைப்புடன் செயல்பட்டவர்களின் வாழ்க்கை பயணத்தை மட்டுமே கேட்டு ஊக்கம் பெற்றீர்கள். இன்றைய நிகழ்ச்சி சற்று மாறுபட்டு அமையவுள்ளது. இன்று நாம் சந்திக்கவிருப்பவர் முனைப்புடன் செயல்பட்டு சிறந்து விளங்கும் ஒரு பெண். மேலும் இவர் காசா ரவுடா என்னும் சமூக அமைப்பு ஒன்றை நிறுவுகிறார். இன்று இந்த அமைப்பு குறித்தும் நாம் அறிந்து கொள்ளவிருக்கிறோம். கணவன் மனைவி இருவரின் கூட்டு முயற்சியால் தொடங்கப்பட்ட இந்த அமைப்பு இன்று பல பெண்களுக்கும் குடும்பங்களுக்கும் பெரிதும் துணை புரிந்து பக்கபலமாக இருக்கிறது. நம் சமூகத்தில் இன்றும் தலை தூக்கி இருக்கும் சிக்கல் குடும்ப வன்முறை. குடும்ப வன்முறை என்னும் போது இனம், வயது, ஆண், பெண் என எவ்வித பாகுபாடுமின்றி பலர் சிக்கி தவிக்கின்றனர். குடும்ப வன்முறையால் பாதிக்கப்பட்டவர்களுக்கு கை கொடுக்கும் விதமாக செயல்படும் அமைப்பே காசா ரவுடா என்னும் சமூக அமைப்பு. காசா ரவுடா 16 ஆண்டுகளாக குடும்ப வன்முறையால் பாதிக்கப்பட்டோருக்கு, குறிப்பாக பெண்களுக்கு ஆதரவு வழங்கி வருகிறது. காசா ரவுடா பாதிக்கப்பட்டோருக்கு அடைக்கலம் தருவதோடு குடும்ப வன்முறை குறித்த விழிப்புணர்வை ஏற்படுத்தவும், குடும்ப வன்முறையால் பாதிக்கப்பட்ட குடும்பங்களின் மேம்பாட்டுக்கு வழிகாட்டவும் துணை புரிகிறது. காசா ரவுடா அமைப்பை பெண்களுக்கென 2008ஆம் ஆண்டு திருவாட்டி ஜஹாரா ஆரிஃபும் அவரது கணவரும் துவங்கி வைத்தனர். இனி இந்த சமூக அமைப்பை குறித்தும் அது வழங்கும் சேவைகள் குறித்தும் அறிந்து கொள்வோம். இந்த அமைப்பின் நிறுவனர் திருவாட்டி ஜஹாரா மலாய் மொழியை தாய்மொழியாக கொண்டவர் என்பதால் உங்கள் அனுமதியோடு இந்த நேர்காணலை நான் ஆங்கிலத்தில் தொடங்குகிறேன். இது பிஸ்மி வானொலியில் நிகழ்த்தப்படும் முதல் ஆங்கில நேர்காணல் என்பதால் நிகழ்ச்சியின் நிறைவில் இதில் பகிர்ந்து கொள்ளப்பட்ட செய்திகள் சுருக்கமாக தமிழில் கூறப்படும். அஸ்ஸலாமு அலைக்கும் வரஹ்மத்துல்லாஹி வபரகாத்துஹு. Welcome Bismi listeners to our special interview segment. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful, we begin today's program. We are honored to have with us Madam Zaharah Ariff, the founder and executive director of Casa Raudha, a pioneering Islamic organization in Singapore dedicated to combating domestic violence. Since 2008, Casa Raudha has been at the forefront of providing support to survivors and working towards creating a society free from domestic abuse, in line with Islamic teachings of compassion and justice. We'll be exploring Madam Zaharah's journey, the evolution of Casa Raudha, and the critical work they are doing to address this pressing social issue. Madam Zaharah, Assalamu alaikum, and thank you for joining us today. It's truly a pleasure to meet you here.
Walaikum salam. Thank you very much for having me with you today.
Madam Zaharah, I would like to begin our conversation by taking you back to the early days of your schooling days, then to Casa Raudha's inception.
Well, first time I'm sharing this on air. I don't usually share back, so long ago when I was in school. I must say that I'm not those who did well academically back then. So I was a school dropout when I was Sec 1. I was a school dropout. I started work, and then at the age of 16, I started to get full-time job, and then my sister encouraged me to take up part-time, school. So I said, yeah, why not part-time night classes? So I said, yeah, I would like to do that. Because I think there was a point when I look at my friend, they all completed their O-levels, they completed, So I felt that I want to achieve that. So I took up night class. I work in the daytime, and then at night I would go to my night classes, and I completed my Sec 1, Sec 2, Sec 3, all the way to O level. Then at O level, I tell myself I can do more, and I continue to work and I continue to pick up my academic bag. So I completed my A levels. And then after that, I started to take my secretariat course, because then as I progress with my academic, I also want to have a job that can also support me all the way, right? When I completed my A level, then I switched job, from just an office attendant, I switched job to do clerical work. Then after I finished my A level, I took up my shorthand classes. I took up my secretariat course. And then once I completed that, I got a job as a secretary with one of the legal firm. So yeah, so my journey went quite, then after that, I decided diploma is something that I want to pursue. So I took up counseling in diploma, because at that point of time, I felt that while I enjoy working as a secretary, I also wanted to do another part of my life, that I want to give back, to the community. I do not know. Maybe it's a calling, or I don't know. So I decided to take up my diploma in counseling. Then from there, I graduated my diploma, and I said, I want to pursue further. So that is where I pursue further with my degree still in counseling. So yeah, and then that was also the time when from secretary, I moved to become a school counselor once I had my degree. I was in a school for 3 years. It was a secondary school, and I loved the job. I met with a lot of students, high risk student, and I always wonder what happened to these children, those who never report to school, those who come from dysfunctional family. I always wonder what happened to them when they go back home. When they are not in school, where will they be? I spent 3 years as a school counselor. But while as much as I love being a school counselor, I told myself I want to try other profile. So that's also when I decided to quit becoming a school counselor. I was there. Then I switched to become a marriage counselor. So I was with this organization when I handle a lot of Sharia court cases. So that's the spark of Casa Raudha when I was a marriage counselor. When I talked to them, I remember one of the case that came very strongly to me is that she was a convert. She said that she do not have the support of the family, things like that. But most importantly is she was experiencing abuse from her spouse. And that's sad, because at that point of time, I remember in 2005, family violence, it was then family violence, right? Family violence was not openly talked about. They do not talk about how to get help, where to get help, whether there's even help out there for this woman to go to when they experience abuse. So as a marriage counselor, first time I'm hearing about family violence, and I was shocked myself, because I also do not know where to refer them, right? Because as a marriage counselor, we work on conflicts in relationship, things like that, how to reconcile. But when it comes to family violence, it's totally different. So I felt very lost myself, because I felt that they needed more than just counseling. They needed a safe place for them to go to. And I talked to them about whether they are aware there's any services out there. So they said there's a shelter. They are not so comfortable at that point of time. So I asked why. Then they said, because it was not run by the Muslim organization. So they said that, it would compromise their values, their beliefs, their faith. So I was quite concerned when they said it, because it seems like they do not have anywhere else to go. And some of the women are not even working. So their concern has always been, if I moved out from my husband's house, right? Where will I go? What will happen to my children? I will end up on the roadside. I don't have money. So that was the concern or the fear that they have at that point of time. So I told when I was in this organization, right, I get to know my husband. I get to I met my husband there, by the way. He was a volunteer at the organization. So I spoke to him. I spoke to him that I needed to do something. I needed to get this woman help beyond the counseling session. And we talk about it a bit. And then, because my network is very small at that point of time, I only know, okay, counseling, I only know one organization, right? I do not know a lot more. So, but my husband is well versed in the landscape, in the community, he's quite well known in the community, things like that. So when I guess I spoke to the right person, then he told me, if you want to do this, then there's no turning back. If this is what you want to do, he agreed that the woman needs help beyond counseling, right? So we sit down, we talk about it, and then we decided, let's do our background check first. Let's do our ground sensing first. So we do not want to just jump into conclusion, right? So we need to get our facts finding. So that is how we decided to go. Before Casa Raudha, there were 3 other crisis shelters. So we visited all the 3 crisis shelters. And because we want to know how many Muslim actually resides there. So they were very friendly. They were very open. They were very welcoming. They share with us the information that we wanted to know. And we get to know, at that point, it was, I think, 2006, if I'm not wrong, when we were doing our facts finding. So it took us almost 1 year plus, nearly 2 years for us to do all the ground, all the check finding, all the facts finding. So we spoke to all 3 crisis shelters, and there were more than 74 women, Muslimah, in these crisis shelters. So we met with Ustad Jasman. Then I'm not sure whether you are familiar with Ustad Jasman. He's a very well-known Muslim leaders in the community. So we met him. We told him that, this is what is happening. And when we go round to the other 3 crisis shelter, there was a confirmed there were more than 74 Muslimah in all these 3 crisis shelters run by the non-Muslim. And the women that I spoke to, they are very concerned that if they were to go in, then, where would they pray? How would they pray? The food, the halal food, all that, they're very concerned. And that stopped them from moving out of the toxic environment at home. After we spoke to Salim Jasman, then he mentioned, if there is more 74 Muslimah in a non-Muslim shelter, then it becomes fardu kifayah for us to build this shelter. So that gives us the strength to say, yes, we need to do this. When Allah wants to do something, right, He makes things very easy for us, for His creation. So that's how I look at it. When it becomes a fardu kifayah, then we need all the help. But Alhamdulillah, from day one that we decided to go on to this journey, I am so amazed at our Muslim community itself. They are so forthcoming when we talk to them about this, and they said, I'm with you, let's do this, I remember we spoke to MSF. MSF, it was then MC, if I'm not wrong, it was MCYS, if I'm not wrong. Now it's called MSF, but then it was MCYS. So when we met up with them, we share with them our concern, our facts finding, all that. And they were very supportive. So they were saying, we intend to have one more shelter that can look into the needs of our community as well. So, and they are all out, working hand in hand with us. So even before we get our IPC status, which we got it at a very early stage, we do not have a shelter yet, but because we have a strong support from MSF, we got our IPC status, and we were so relieved, because that means that other donors, they're willing to come forward, they're willing to put their money in, and they trust that we can do this. So that was how Casa Raudha, the spark of Casa Raudha. So and there's no turning back. So so we started while waiting for MSF to allocate a place for us, right? We started already with our services running from a small office. So it's not a shelter, but it's an office that we invite women who experience abuse, women who are homeless and needed support. So we met up with them. We run empowerment program with them. at that point of time, we also asked whether we also have donors who are willing to sponsor the woman, who are willing to support our empowerment program. So we run through all the, we had our counseling services started, all that, while we continuously work with MSF in finding that right location for us to have the shelter. So we started our small office in 2010. MSF found us a location. I unfortunately I cannot reveal where's the location because our because of the profile that we serve, the nature of the work that we do, our location not supposed to be made known to the public. MSF managed to secure us a position, so give you certain percentage of, and you have to source for your own as well. So and we are agreeable with that because we feel that there's also a responsibility at our end, right, to raise fund to support what we believe in. And but Alhamdulillah, that at that point of time, my husband, Mr. Hamza Abdul Muttalib, so he was the one who raised fund. He alone go and find funders, to fund this mission. So I mean, Casa Raudha would not be where we are today without his strong commitment to want to see this through with me. Not as a wife, but as someone who managed the shelter now. I think Casa Raudha owes him a lot, because from zero, we had zero finance at that point of time. But he built our financial to where we are now. I think without him, Casa Raudha is going to struggle a lot. So that's something about the financial aspect of us. The building started, renovation is the E&A work. It's not total renovation. I'm very fortunate to be given the opportunity to build the shelter from scratch. So while he looks into the exterior of it, meaning that he works with a consultant, with the contractors on all the interior, on the exterior, on the wiring, all those technicality aspect of the A&A work, where I'm given the opportunity to design how we want the shelter to look like internally. And we started from scratch. And that was something that is a beautiful experience. So as we built every corner of every space, every corner of the building, we had our resident in mind, right? We want to make sure that they have the comfort. They are protected, they have the comfort, and they must feel that this is a home for them. So that's something about how we started choosing materials, choosing the furniture, because at the end of it, what I shared with my husband was that no woman come to the shelter must worry about food, must worry whether they have money for them to continue to go to work, or the children continue to go to school, right? They should not worry about this. And the children must continue to go to school, because the last thing I want is that we disrupt the child's life because of what the parents is going through. So that has been something that we hold on very fast until now. So we make sure when the women come, they do not have to worry about food, because that when I was a school counselor, that was the concern that they have raised. So we make sure the shelter has food for them. And Alhamdulillah, until now, we make sure we have our zakat. We receive some very kind-hearted zakat contributors who want to support. So they also give us their zakat, their fidya. We're very grateful, because these are the people that makes Casa Raudha journey more meaningful. So the zakat money or the fidya money that we use, we put it back to the food that this woman and the children can have. So the A&A work took about 1 year, and we started to receive first resident in 2012. So in 2012 we started to be functional. The shelter started its operation. So while we are in the shelter, right? So initially we started to just receiving residents. So they came in with luggage. It's very hard, very sad to see women came in with children, especially the children, right? So every time we look at them, we feel like, wow, it's not easy to make this decision to leave the matrimonial home and come to a place where they do not know how their life is going to. But they took that courage and took that step to say, yes, I want to move out because now they have a place that, they will not feel compromised with their values and their beliefs. And we welcome that. So while they are in the shelter, we make sure that they get the support that they needed. The basic needs are looked after. When they come, some of the women, they came with just themselves. They did not, because they ran out from their home, so they do not have any belonging with them. We give them some ad hoc financial support for them to buy their clothing, all that, so they don't have to worry on that. And we make sure that the halalness of the kitchen is also observed. So no woman will feel that, okay, this thing is not halal, how can I eat halal food, all that. No, we do not want that. So we make sure our kitchen only provides food that are halal, and it can be shared with many, right? So, but we also make sure that the kitchen do not serve beef as well, because Indian women who came to the shelter as well. So we want to respect that with the Indian who came, the Hindus who came. So there's no beef, right? So there's only fish and chicken that we provide. Once every festive season, we will have some muttons for the resident. But we observe and we respect all races that come through, because Casa Raudha do not just serve Muslim women. We open our doors because why? First thing, I remember my husband told me, yes, we want to observe the Fardu Kifaya. We want to do this for Muslim women, but we also want to do this for the sake of humanity. So we open our door to all women in Singapore, even foreign brides who are married to Singaporean husband and they experience abuse. They need the help. We will also help them. So Casa Raudha is built on Fardu Kifaya, but out of humanity, we open our doors to all women and their children.
It's really heartening to hear how much hard work you've put into helping women who are affected. And thank you so much for making such a significant impact. With that, I would like to ask about, you did mention that in 2005, domestic violence is not openly spoken. What do you think of the current situation? How is domestic violence perceived today? Is there a change to it?
Oh, definitely. There's a huge change. Now there's so many campaigns that the ministry runs and Casa Raudha itself. You see, because when we started as a protection, right, to provide shelter for safe, to protect the women and their children. But we have moved, not just providing the shelter. We have also started in 2018, we started to do outreach program, because why? We see the need. We see the need to have a lot of campaigns to be run in order to create awareness. And Alhamdulillah, we can see so much talk about it now. Now it's no longer a taboo. Maybe in some community or maybe in some families, it's still a taboo to talk about, or in some culture. But the community at large, there's no shortage of awareness campaign, no shortage of, people not knowing how to get help. Because now, if you take a look, there is family service center. There, I think, often I cannot recall how many family service center. About 47, I think. There are 47 family service center, and they are all well equipped to manage family violence cases. We also have the protection service centers as well, 3 of them, who are specialized to look into domestic violence. Casa Raudha, we work very closely with the ministry, MSF, on our preventive work, campaigns against child abuse, campaigns against elder abuse, spousal abuse. So there's a lot of talks that we did, a lot of awareness campaign that we run to educate the community, not just the community, also the frontliners, because I think the frontliners are critically important to provide the immediate support to their client who are experiencing abuse. I give you an example, right? Because of the numbers of children that we see in our shelter, they are as young as majority of them are 6 and below years old. And we are very concerned. One mother come with this age group of children, and not just one child, a few children, So we're very concerned. At least these children who are residing in the shelter, they are in the system. But what about those children who are not in the system yet? But they do go to kindergarten, they do go to all these, kindergarten schools. So we said, then how can we help them through the teachers? So we train the teachers how to spot the sign and symptom of child abuse. And then we did that with we did training with our asatizas as well. We work very closely with some of the institution that provides, that produce asatiza, right? So we work together with them and we train the asatiza on how to manage their clients or their students who are experiencing abuse. So our outreach is also to the RC members, right? We also have given workshop to the members of the those RCs that works with the MP. They always have this meet the people sessions, right? So we also run workshop for them to be more aware when they talk to their clients, residents, how can they spot the sign and symptom of domestic violence? So I think there is a huge shift from 2005 when domestic violence is not known publicly. Now you can see them. I also know that, sometime on the road, I do see on buses, they have this advertisement on family violence. And that is so amazing.
Do you believe that men can also be victims of domestic violence and emotional isolation? If so, how do you think this issue is perceived in society compared to violence against women?
Okay, first I just want to correct you there because when I think I mentioned from beginning, Casa Raudha is not exclusively for the Muslimah. We are based on Fardu Kifaya, yes, for the Muslimah, but we open our door to all other races and ethnic groups as well for the woman. So coming back to your question as to whether male can be the victims as well, yes, male can be the victim as well. And in fact, if you read in papers or that, they do. I think there are cases of family violence that the women are the one who cause harm in a family. So we do have that, and in fact, our second shelter, we are ready to help male victims who experience abuse and needed that safe place for them to seek help.
Domestic violence can often be hidden or misunderstood. So, based on Casa Raudha's experience, what are some key signs that might indicate someone is experiencing domestic violence?
There are few key indicators. For example, right, you know a friend, a woman who work with you, and then every time when certain time the woman get agitated, because some of the cases that we see, in this case, I think we are talking about women who are being abused. So the husband would want the wife to report or to reach home certain time. For example, she has to reach home by 5:30. 5:35, if she reached home 5 minutes late, then that would triggers his anger and then would escalate into violence. So her movement is very much controlled. And if she missed that time that she's supposed to leave so that she can reach home just before the curfew time, so-called, you can tell that she's very agitated or she's very tense. Then you know that something is not right. Right, you know that, okay, why are you so, just a few minutes late, why are you so tense, right? And then sometimes you can see marks on her body, on her arms, on the face, unexplained marks. So when you ask, they would always say, oh no lah, just I bump into something. They would just they would just brush it off. They do not want to talk about it more. So just nothing, just a brush. So that is on physical violence as well. And because of the trauma that they go through, they do not see life having hope. They look at life having, the person who caused harm, maybe the husband. They think that the husband is above the law because they feel that no one can help me. My husband will always tell me that what you can do, you just call the police. You think after that, what, the police will go home? I will not be caught. I will not, But so they felt that no one can help her, and worse still, if there is no support from the family, right? That's the worst part of it, because women who went through abuse, they needed the support from the family. They needed a place where they can go to and tell what is actually happening at home. But unfortunately, for some women who do not have the support, they are not able to find that right person that they can talk to. The other sign that they can, that, that any one of us can look out for is actually when they start to talk about feeling depressed, right? Feeling depressed, overly stressed, and all associated with what is happening right. Sometimes they don't want to talk too much, because our Muslimah woman, we all grow up thinking that husband supposed to be the head of the house. Whatever husband say goes, right? What husband has the last say in a family, and the woman or the wives cannot have different opinion. You have different opinion means you belittle your husband or you disobey your husband. So whatever husband say must follow, right? So, and to them, if I were to talk one about my husband behavior, then that would bring the dirty linen out in a public, which they also felt is a sinful thing to do. So some of the Muslimah trap, right? So they are not able to share it openly. They suffer behind closed door. This is sometimes depression hits them. They do not see that there is a system that they can hold on to. Yeah. So these are some of the sign and symptom that the woman may face when they are experiencing abuse.
So just wanted to know, how should concerned friends or family members or community members take action if they suspect abuse? What advice would you give them on how to respond appropriately and safely?
I think that's a very important keyword, appropriately and safely, right? Our campaign is always empowering community to be an upstander, which means that when you see abuse happening, please report. When you suspected a friend, or maybe not a friend, when you suspected your neighbor, for example, being hit, or being abused, you can call the hotline, National Anti-Violence and Sexual Harassment Helpline, 1-800-777-0000. So that's the number, and they will do their assessment, and they can advise you what to do, or even send the officer to investigate. Sometimes when we felt very close to the person and we want to champion the cause, and we think that, let me talk to your husband because I know your husband. You got to be very, very careful, because sometimes in our good intention, if it's not properly carried out, then it may cause more damage, right? So we need to be very clear what we want to do. First, I would suggest, instead of jumping into wanting to help, get to know what is family violence all about? What is domestic violence all about? What is the complexity of it? It's because it can be life-threatening sometimes. So get to know what is it all about, and where to get help. What are the resources available out there, right? So if your colleagues talk to you, she or he is experiencing family violence, things like that, you can share resources. What are the available resources out there? Like I mentioned just now, like the Family Service Center, we have they can always make reference to them, provide the resources available. That is one way. The other way, if the person talk to you, right, and then after that the person says, right, I'm not ready to seek help. I just want to talk to you first, but I'm not ready to seek help. It's okay. We cannot force them yet. Like I said, this is not an overnight decision that they can make, right? And it's not easy for them to make decision to walk out, especially our Muslim, to walk out from a home. They always have this thinking that as a wife, I cannot leave my home without my husband's permission. Some wives still think like that, right? So that's something that, is a huge thing if you want her to just move out from the house without the husband. So we need to respect that culture as well, or that belief as well. We can talk about the safety. We can ask the person, but how safe are you if you don't seek help now? You go back to your family, how safe are you? Will be you and your children? Do you think your husband will harm you and them again? Get them to talk about the safety, as then they will start to think, right? And if they say that, no, I think for tonight I'm okay, I still know how to manage, then let it be first, right? But if they said, I'm scared, I do not know what to do, but at the same time, I also do not want to leave my home, but I know that I will not be safe, or my children will not be safe, then call the helpline that I've given you, explain your situation, and then tell them what actually happened and you need help. So that is also one way. Empower the victims to make a police call, right? To call the police or to go to the police station and get help. They will know what to do. So that's also another way that the person can, that you as a friend or as a colleague can do to support, right? In the event, if your friend or colleague or family members ready to go to the FSCs, but they cannot go alone because going into FSCs or wherever is talking to a stranger. So if you have the time and if you think that you would like to see this through with your friend, then accompany them to the FSCs, right? But you can always tell, the police or the FSCs workers, don't mention about you because, family members, you do not want to get into any unpleasant dispute, right? You can always tell it to them and they will know what to do, how to maintain confidentiality, all that. So that's also another way how you can support your friend. If you feel that your home is safe enough for your friend and the children or just your friend to stay there for a few days, or if you think that it's safe enough, then by all means you can offer. But if you think that no, the husband nowhere, will suspect and will come over and will make a big hoo-ha, then if you think that it is not safe, then don't, because you also need to protect yourself also, and your family as well. So these are the ways that you can do to support. But the least that you can do is to make that report. That's the least that you can do, right? I remember one case, this lady was saying, a lot of our neighbors always says that what stopped them because they don't want to be a kepo neighbor. But one of my ex-resident, she was sharing with me, she was badly bitten by the husband and she thought that she would die there and then, being bitten by the husband continuously. But it is, and she herself quote this, it is my kepo neighbor that actually saved my life. Because why? While she was shouting and crying, the neighbor called the police and the police came. So to her, that kepo neighbor is the one who saved her life. So sometimes when we hear the shout and crying of our neighbor who are in pain, we should not just think that we are being kepo and, we should not do that. We should at least do our part and call the police to say, hey, look, I have this neighbor who's shouting. It sounded not right, not just a normal shouting. Please come and see. But you can tell the police, well, I do not want me to be named or, because we are neighbors, all that. I'm sure that the police knows what to do to maintain the confidentiality.
With that timely reminder, Madam Zaharah, on how to respond appropriately and safely in taking action if someone suspects abuse, we would also like to hear a particularly memorable success story from your work.
I remember she came to our shelter straight from the hospital, and she has 2 children then, young children then. It was some time back. So when she came, with bruises, all that. So that's also something that we felt very sorry for her because of what she has to go through. And I remember she told me that, how the husband, not only abusive towards her physically, but also mentally, psychologically and emotionally abusive towards her. And she told me that, the husband would stop her from achieving her goals. She loved to bake, right? She loves to bake. She likes to cook. But the husband stopped her. And before she came to the shelter, she actually ran some catering home-based business. But with such an abusive husband, all this stopped. She was badly beaten even while pregnant, all that, So when she came, she told me that, I have to stop my dream of becoming a baker, all that, because my husband would not want me to succeed. So while in the shelter, we empower her. We empower her to be on her own, to stand on her own, and she told me, I love to bake. So I said, okay, Casa Raudha will send you for baking class. So we did. We sent her for baking class. We get our volunteers down to teach her how to do blogging. That time was blogging. She picked up very fast. And one of the things that she mentioned, I can start my blogging now. I know how to blog already. So we support her all the way. And it's true. When she finally made the decision that she is ready to leave the shelter, she continued to become a baker. She continued to take that as a pastry chef. And then she managed to go to US to do her internship. So she lives her life. She moved on. How she moved on. I remember I was having a counseling session with her. So she shared with me that, she was at the age of 18, she witnessed abuse happening to the mom. And then now she came to the shelter with two children just now. The girl was 8 years old. So when I went through the counseling session with her, she realized that the daughter at that age, it makes her recall when she was 8 herself and the abuse that she has to go through. So she said, enough is enough, because my daughter now at my age is going through the same when I was at her age. So she said, enough is enough. I'm moving forward with my life. So that's the start of her wanting to do more, wanting to pursue her goal and her dream. And after she discharged from the shelter, she continued to pursue becoming a chef, a pastry chef. She did her internship in US, and now she's back in Singapore, and she continued to do that. So that's one of the success story. And she, at some point, she also become our ambassador when she shared her life journey, her life story to other women who are experiencing the same thing. The type of abuse, because a lot of people thinks that when we talk about abuse, it's only about physical abuse, but there are other type of abuse that I think is equally important for women to identify. Psychological abuse. This psychological abuse or gaslighting, it was not commonly talked before. Now the professionals, we started to recognize that women or victims, especially male, when we talk about male victims, psychological abuse is always an emotional abuse. These are the most type of abuse that the male can face. For women, some of them may not experience physical, but they do experience psychological abuse and psychological and emotional abuse. And sometimes to them, it's not as serious as physical abuse. But I would like to remind, psychological and emotional abuse, the damage is as bad as physical abuse. Because why? It will affect. It has a long-term consequences, because if every day you wake up, you hear the words being used to you, belittle you, make you feel that you are worthless. There's nothing good about you. You're a bad mom. You look ugly. It's as good as you're being punched on your face every time. So psychological and emotional abuse has the same consequences, because it will have that impact on your self-esteem, and that makes you feel that you are never good enough, right? So just be careful about that.
It's amazing and encouraging to hear how one has moved on after being a victim to domestic violence and meaningfully living her life. And thank you, Madam Zahara, for highlighting the various forms of abuse experienced by both males and females. So, moving forward, what are Casa Raudha's plans for the future?
Okay. So Casa Raudha, we want to continue doing outreach, right? I think that is so important. One of the things that we always wanting to do is to promote life free of domestic violence. And to do this, we need to make sure that the children who experience abuse gets the intervention at early age, or the support. So that's why we will continue to work towards ending child abuse, right? So we will one of the new initiative that we have now is having place that we call Casa Raudha Cares, which is also our HQ and a space that we will use to for our community who needs help. They can come there and meet us there for them to talk to us. Affected families, they can also come directly for us to become the first touch point for affected families of domestic violence, individual or families, right? They can just come there and talk to us, and then we will do assessment whether there is a need of shelter, or whether they can continue with the counseling aspect, with the person who caused harm. And we also want to do so the Casa Raudha Care Center, right, becomes like a one-stop center for domestic violence victims and survivors. We also want to provide that kind of support for the person who caused harm, who wants to change, right? We always believe that people who loves the family, right, even though they are the one who caused harm. They too wants to be given a chance. It's just that for some reason they are not stepping forward, right? But if they really loves the family and they really feel that, yes, I want to become a better man for my wife, for my children, then there's always support for them. So Casa Raudha and CARES provide that kind of support for this individual.
Our best wishes for Casa Raudha's future plans, Madam Zaharah. So
Thank you.
I've truly enjoyed our conversation today, and I'm sure our Bismi listeners would have also gained insights and awareness about domestic violence and Casa Raudha's intervention to it. So before we wrap up, I would love to hear one last thing from you. Our recent data shows that 60.8% of Bismi Radio's listeners are Muslim women. It's possible that some of our listeners may have experienced or are currently experiencing domestic violence. What message would you like to share with these women who might be listening to Bismi?
If you think that you are experiencing abuse, whether it's physical, psychological, emotional, if you are experiencing abuse, you need to find the courage to step forward and seek. You start talking to someone that you think can help. Right? It can be your sibling, can be your parents. If your parents, you think that your parents can be supportive, talk to them. But if not, if you think that I'd rather talk to a stranger, then go to the FSCs. There's 47, I think there's 47 FSCs out there nearest to your home, but you need to get help, right? You need to start talking about it and you need to get help because it will not just go away quietly, not anytime soon. These domestic violence cases is not something that you think tomorrow it will be better. Yes, tomorrow can be better, but it will not stop. The abuse will not stop because there's always something that will triggers petty things that will triggers the anger and triggers the violence. So it will not stop unless you seek help. So please do not be afraid. Getting help does not mean a divorce. It's not guaranteed divorce. It's not that. But getting help to stop the violence, to save your life, to save the life of your children. Because if you have children who witness abuse growing up in an abusive environment, we always learn children are like sponges. They see, they just absorb what they see, what they hear. And when they grow up, if this is not managed, they will become one themselves. Either they become the person who caused harm or they will continue to become the victims. So it is also something for us to ponder. But don't be afraid. It's time for you to step up and get help. And if you are a woman who knows another woman who are experiencing violence, please don't shut your eyes or shut your ears. You need to reach out to her and tell her it's time for you to get help and stop.
That's indeed a valuable and impactful message to our Muslim women listening to Bismi. Thank you, Madam Zaharah, for that. We have come to the end of our interview. On behalf of our listeners and myself, I want to express our heartfelt gratitude for your time today and for sharing your wisdom and experiences with us. Your dedication to Casa Raudha and its mission is truly commendable. Thank you for the vital work you do in our community to combat domestic violence and support those in need. We are deeply grateful for your presence here today. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
Waalaikumsalam.
பிஸ்மி நேர்களே, இதுவரை காசா ரவுடா அமைப்பின் நிறுவனர் திருவாட்டி ஜஹரா ஆரிஃபை சந்தித்தோம். ஒரு பெண் தன் குடும்பத்தை மேம்படுத்துவதோடு தன் சமுதாயத்திற்கும் பங்களிக்க இயலும் என்பதற்கு திருவாட்டி ஜஹரா தலை சிறந்த எடுத்துக்காட்டாக விளங்குகிறார். இவரின் இந்த இன்றியமையாத சேவை நம் எதிர்கால சமுதாயத்தை குடும்ப வன்முறையற்ற குடும்ப உறவுகளை மதித்து பேணி காக்கக்கூடிய சமுதாயமாக உருவாக்க அடித்தளமாக அமைகிறது. சிக்கல்கள் எவ்வளவு பெரிதாக இருந்தாலும் அதற்குரிய தீர்வுகளை எல்லாம் வல்ல அல்லாஹ் நம் அருகிலேயே வைத்திருக்கிறான். அதை நாம் தான் கண்டறிந்து சிக்கல்களுக்கு தீர்வு காண முயற்சி செய்ய வேண்டும். குடும்ப உறவுகளுக்கிடையே உடல், உளவியல், பேச்சு, நிதி, பாலியல் முதலிய கூறுகளின் வாயிலாக ஒருவருக்கு துன்பம் நேர்ந்தால் அது குடும்ப வன்முறை என்று கருதப்படும். குடும்ப வன்முறையால் பாதிக்கப்பட்டவர்கள் தங்களுக்கு நேரும் அவநிலையை முதலில் உணர வேண்டும். அதிலிருந்து மீள தகுந்த உதவியை உடனே நாட வேண்டும். காசா ராவ்டா அமைப்பு எந்த பாகுபாடும் இன்றி குடும்ப வன்முறையால் துன்பப்படும் அனைவருக்கும் கை கொடுக்கிறது. நீங்களும் திருவாட்டி ஜஹாராவை போல் நம் சமுதாயத்திற்கு உங்கள் பங்கை ஆற்ற தொடர்ந்து முன்வாருங்கள். உங்களில் சிறந்தவர் தங்களின் குடும்பத்தினருடன் மிகச் சிறந்த முறையில் நடந்து கொள்பவராக இருக்கிறீர்கள் என்னும் ஹதீத் திருமிதியில் இடம்பெற்றிருக்கும் சிந்தனையுடன் உங்களிடமிருந்து விடைபெற்றுக் கொள்கிறேன். தொடர்ந்து பிஸ்மி வானொலியை கேளுங்கள். இது இஸ்லாமியர்களின் இல்லம். ஜஸகல்லாஹ் ஹைரன். அஸ்ஸலாமு அலைக்கும் வரஹ்மத்துல்லாஹி வபரகாத்துஹு.